NASA opened up in Clear Lake, Texas, about 30 miles south of Houston, and of course it's still there, the mayor threw a party, a VIP party, in our Coliseum for 4,000 of the VIPs of Houston. Everybody that was anybody was there. All the top doctors and lawyers and all the first Mercury astronauts that went up in the capsule that just held one. You know, John Glenn, Wally Schirra, Deke Slayton, Gordon Cooper, Alan Shepard, Gus Grissom, and Scott Carpenter. Those were the 7. And I'm in the center of 4,000 people, and I do my Texas act with the Texas theme. And that was probably the best audience I've ever had in my life, and I got lots of shows from that day. The head of NASA asked me to come down there and show this newfangled levitation I do. Anti-gravity board is what I called it. And they didn't even know what magicians mean by levitation. So I had invented this anti-gravity board, and they got wind of this. And I was in the newspaper with a picture of my daughter floating in the air. So they said, would you bring down that and show it to us? We're having a cocktail party, and everybody connected with NASA, all the space scientists and the astronauts, everybody will be there. And I floated the wife, Pat Collins, the wife of Mike Collins, who was the gentleman who went around the moon in the capsule while Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin went onto the moon. And Stafford and Lovell and Borman, 3 future Gemini astronauts, came over and said, can we touch that board? And I said, sure, it's just a wooden board. I banged on it, and they banged on it. It was almost like this has to be a dream or something, that you can't do that. And Borman said to Lovell, he said, there's no such thing as an anti-gravity board. And then Lovell said, but Blaney has one. And they said, well, damned if he doesn't. And then they said, is this something we could use in the space effort? I said, oh, I wish I could become a millionaire. But no, it's a trick. I'm fooling your mind and your eyes. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. I'm an entertainer. I do what I try to do pretty well. But you guys are the magician. You're the guys that are floating in the air up there and everything. And I wish I could jump up and pass a hoop over you. But I don't know how you do what you do, and I'm going to keep my secret. And they said, well, darn, I wish we could use that in the space effort. So that's kind of a feather in my hat, to hear that from these guys that are just super brains, you know. Years later, the phone rings, and it's Admiral Alan Shepard. He said, Walter, this is Admiral Shepard. I want to see if you could come entertain at our 25th reunion, just the Mercury astronauts and our wives, and a couple of our former wives that we're still friends with, and the doctor and his wife that took care of us all those years. And he listed who would be there. He said, of course, Gus Grissom died in that fire, but his wife Betty will be there. And what will you charge? And I said, charge? How much do I have to pay you to get to come do it? You're my heroes. I'm not going to charge. I'll turn down a pay show, and this will be a thrill, you know. He said, we can afford to pay you. And I said, of course you can. You can pay me, but you may not pay me. So let's talk about where it is and when. And there was just 18 people there in an intimate little room. And I did the act, and they loved the bird cage and the other stuff. And then I floated Maria Carpenter, Scott Carpenter's wife, 5 feet away from the just this little room there. I'm just at one end, and I floated, and they're just looking at, 5 feet away. And the astronauts that went around the world in space are shaking their head like, I can't believe this, Pretty nice feeling. And then they all said, look, if you're not in a hurry and you can stay with us, you're family. We want to talk to you and everything. I got to stay with these guys for the next 2 hours at their party, their 25th reunion, and talk to each individually to all of them and their wives, and I did a little close-up magic. One of the guys, of course, was John Glenn, senator from Ohio later on, and he was taken by my vanishing bird cage, and he just went crazy over that. He couldn't figure it, and he said, Walter, just at the tables with everybody else, could you do that bird trick one more time? And I said, you mean where I take a little cage like that and vanish it? No, I can't do that again. And he says, oh my gosh, and he'd walk away, and then 5 minutes later he'd come back and he'd say, one more time? I said, sure. I got it out again. This time I let him put his hands on it. Phew, it's gone. Oh, man. And here he comes again. A few minutes later, I'm talking to a couple more astronauts there. And he says, do it for me one more time. Boom, gone. And now he's coming back. About 12 times he did that. Now I know he's coming back. So I'm standing there and I adjust my coat and it's out ready to go. And I'm talking to this other guy and I hear my tap on my shoulder. I feel it. And I look and there's John Glenn. I said, don't say a word. There it is. Now it's gone. And he went blah, 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 blah. You know? So it's kind of fun when you got a future senator from Ohio and this top astronaut that went in Friendship 7. He was the one that went around the whole time. And he goes blah, 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 over my stupid little birdcage trick. When he's flying and floating in the air, levitating and all this stuff, and he goes crazy over a little bird in the cage. These are heroes. They risked their life to get our space effort going, and I got to meet them all, and I have a picture on my wall signed by all of them. So this is that photograph, and I'll just read you, here it says, to Walter Zaney Blaney, with appreciation for your great magic on our 25th, that's their anniversary, and here's the way they looked at the beginning. This was their #1 PR shot, and they're all lined up here. So here are their signatures: Scott Carpenter, Gordon Cooper, John Glenn right there. He's, of course, governor of Ohio, has been governor of Ohio. And here's Gus Grissom, who sadly died in that fire, and Betty Grissom signed. And then here's Wally Chagall and Alan Shepard right here, and Deke Slayton. Alan Shepard was the one that got me to do it. It's Rear Admiral, U.S. Navy Alan Shepard. He says, Zaney, this is really magic. My thanks, Apollo 14, 2571. Here he is on the moon. I don't know if it will show up. And there's the American flag with the spring in it. And that may be an Abbott's production staff, I'm not sure, you know. But there it is, and that's on the moon.